So the course of today, within 2 hours, we'll talk about the GNC and at the end of the flight software implementation. If we succeed in opening it. And so after a short introduction, we talk about each of the algorithms of GNC. Very well. And I try to give you the main ideas about the GNC and the key figures to remember, but we will not have the time to go much into details because of the little time we have. So, let's start by the introduction. Okay, so we talk then about navigation, guidance and control functions, so for GNC. We'll talk a bit about the redundancy, so what we call also the FDIR. So for failure detection, isolation and recovery. So it's the algorithm that aims at detecting the failures of the equipment and switching to the backup one. And in the end we'll talk about the implementation of the flight software, validations and the qualifications that we perform for the European launchers. So a few slides about the generalities about GNC. So the main thing you must remember about the GNC algorithm is that the launch vehicle, from the time it lifts off from the launch pad, is fully autonomous. It means that from the time it lifts up to the orbit, it is aiming, it is fully autonomous. There is no action from ground on the launch vehicle. So there is an onboard computer that has to manage the full mission in order to put the payload, the satellites, into orbit. The only action that can be performed from ground is the destruction of the launcher if it becomes dangerous for the people and the ground links. So we have a full set of algorithms inside the onboard computer that work in real time, and the objective of this algorithm is to manage the mission from the liftoff up to the orbit, so managing the control, the guidance and the navigation of the launch vehicle, but also managing the separation sequences for the stages that we jettison each time it's possible in order to gain performance of the launch vehicle. So the principle of the GNC is very simple. You have here a big scheme. You have the launch vehicle dynamics that you sense through sensors. So there are different kinds of sensors we will see. The main sensors are the inertial sensors, so accelerometers and gyrometers that sense the attitude and the acceleration of the launch vehicle inside an inertial frame. So we receive these measurements with a given frequency, and the first function is the navigation. Hello. Navigation aims at telling the GNC where is the launcher and with which velocity. So the navigation objective is to provide the position and the velocity of the launcher in a given frame. Then the guidance, the second function, uses this information in order to re-optimize the trajectory during the mission. So the objective is to compensate the possible errors that have occurred during the flight, the uncertainties, the wind effect and so on, and to re-optimize at each time the trajectory in order to reach the orbit, minimizing the consumption of the launcher. So the objective of guidance is to do a bit what has been presented by Eric yesterday, so to re-optimize the trajectory at each step of the flight. It provides, in fact, at each moment, the direction in which we have to orientate the launcher in order to follow the optimal path. Okay, so it provides angles, theta and c angles, pitch and azimuth angles, and we have to orientate the thrust of the launch vehicle, so the longitudinal axis of the launch vehicle, in this direction. The objective of the control is to realize this orientation of the launch vehicle. So the control will make the launcher rotate around its center of gravity and will ensure that the angles that are defined by the guidance function are realized in practical, and this is done by creating torques on the launcher in order to make it rotate around its center of gravity. So during the main propulsion phase, we use the propulsion of the engines and we deflect the thrust by actuators in order to create torques and make the launcher rotate around its center of gravity. Of course, these torques will impact the dynamics of the launch vehicle, and it will be seen by the sensors again. So it is a closed loop, and we have three main functions that work in series: navigation, guidance, and control. As I told you, for some of the launchers, it is the case for Ariane 5 and Soyuz. It is not the case for Vega. We have what we call a redundancy for the electrical equipment. So it means that each electrical equipment is not only there once, but there are two of them on the launch vehicle. And for Soyuz, there are sometimes three of them. So there is a triplex architecture. And there is a specific algorithm which aims at defining if the equipment is healthy or has a failure, and if it detects a failure, it helps to switch to the backup equipment. So it is true for sensors, for some of the actuators, and a bit for the electronics of the actuators. And we have specific algorithms, we'll see them later on, that try to detect the failures and to switch to the backup equipment. Finally, there are some algorithms that aim at managing the sequences. So by sequences, we mean mainly the separation of the stages. So there are very simple algorithms that try to detect the end of propulsion of the stage, and if there is the end of propulsion, it sends a sequence in order to jettison the stage. So for example, during the first phase of flight of our flight, with the two boosters, we measure the acceleration, we check the level of acceleration, and when it's below a given threshold, we know that there is the end of propulsion of the boosters, and we send the orders for the separation of the boosters. Okay, so it is the main kind of algorithms we have in the flight control of the launch vehicle.